Hey, it's the Sporting Tribune today. Adrian Hernandez here to talk about a book called Every Shot Counts, a memoir of resilience from Carlos Boozer. And here to verify everything in this book because he is, in fact, Carlos Boozer. Carlos, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Great, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, absolutely. I told you before we started, there's Cleveland ties, so I appreciate you. Thank you for your service. There's some heartbreak too with that, but we'll get to that later.
Of course.
But before we get into the book and everything, since it is your first time, we've talked for 30 seconds before this interview started. Like, we want to break the ice. So I'm going to start off with this question. Someone's coming to your house and you have to show them one item, just one, to impress them. What in your house do you show them?
I show them a picture of my family, my kids. I mean, that's the thing I'm most proud of is my children.
There it is. That's the smart, mature answer. I like that, Carlos. I know you went to Duke. There we go. Another one, too. So this has kind of been going around the station. I've been getting some slack because Beyonce was just here in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago. And, the mother of my child wanted to go, a huge Beyonce fan. And the ticket that she spent for the pair of tickets, her and her homegirl went, it was over four figures. You know what I'm saying? It was over $1,000. I don't want to get into specifics, but a lot of people said, that's way too expensive. But since I've had my 5-year-old son, I've kind of flipped. Like, I could care less about objects. I'm all for experience. Yeah. Where do you say? Did I spend too much? Like, what's the most expensive ticket you bought? Like, where am I right now?
No, that's the right move. I think ultimately in life, as you get older, you want experiences, right? So you want less of attachments to material things and more experiences. So Beyonce, I'm gonna be honest, that's probably a good experience, bro.
It is. Plus, it's better than the Usher show here in Las Vegas. I'll say that for some other reasons. But let's hop into this book, man. And you kind of detail everything throughout your life from early all the way throughout your career, college, USA. Like it's really like it gets into everything, which I appreciate. And one thing that stuck out to me, not only reading the book, but seeing some interviews getting ready is, first off, if people didn't know, you grew up in Alaska, which is crazy. And you kind of detail how you ended up there, some of the tragedy that led to that. But also you talked about a moment that you had in 7th grade where you were like, I want to make it to the NBA. And your teacher kind of in front of the class was like, calm down. We're in Alaska. Should probably work at Home Depot, or like have your dreams be a little bit shoveled. And like, to me, that's crazy. And I'm curious, you setting out and fulfilling your dreams, like how that moment kind of gave you perspective now being a dad and you have your children. And now you really, from experience, can tell them, I don't care what the hell you want to be, you can be it because you did it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's exactly the message. Like, I think as a father, you want to give your kids the chance to go after whatever they're into. And it may not be what you think they might be into, right? So, think about a 12-year-old kid telling his mom and dad, hey, I want to go to the NBA. I'm getting inspired by Michael Jordan and different players. And I just love what the NBA brings and the opportunity there. And that's what I want to do when I get older. And then I go into my school, and my 7th grade teacher tells me to, lower my expectations and tries to discourage me. And that's my message to the readers, the audience of my book, is to keep going. You're going to have a dream, whether you want to be a reporter or a photographer or an artist of some kind, and you're going to come to a roadblock in the road, right? Something's going to try to stop you, whether that's a teacher, whether that's financial situation, whatever it might be. My advice is keep going, because ultimately either you're going to live your dream or help somebody else achieve theirs, right? Working for them. So I say keep going and go live your dream, and that's what I did.
And speaking of fatherhood, so for me personally in my high school career, I remember 2 moments. Freshman year football JV Saturday morning game, Cleveland, Ohio, terrible weather. Dad goes to the game. I'm hyped. At the end of the game, I can't find him. I walk home. He's washing dishes in the kitchen. I'm like, yo, Dad, where did you go? He was like, hey, I'm not going out there to watch you play like crap. We lost by 30 points. He had a good point. And then in basketball further on, he got ejected from a game and banned for the season because he went onto the court and he pulled out his glasses and handed them to the ref. They didn't like that very much. So I'm asking you, with your kids and all the sports that they play, and now it's different because obviously they're getting ready to make big decisions for college. But what's your dad style on the sidelines? Like, are you just cool, calm, and collected, or what's the vibe?
Oh yeah, I'm chill, man. I don't get in the referee's face too much. I talk to him a little bit on the low, but now I let my kids go play. I let my kids get coached and let my kids try to figure out during the course of the game like I had to. If the referee's calling it tight, you got to be careful. If referees letting stuff go, you'll be a little more physical. But I like to be a dad, man. Just sit back and enjoy my kids' games, root for them, cheer them on, support them. I do my coaching in the car ride home, on the way after the game is over type of thing. But during the game, I'm just a dad rooting. I got the hat on. I'm rocking their jerseys. I'm that dad.
No, I love it. By the way, are you kind of amazed as your kids are going through this process of picking like where they want to go play ball at? The college structure has kind of been undressed in this world of NIL. Like, are you kind of amazed how things have changed and how quickly it has?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. I mean, 20 years ago, I was a kid being recruited by some of these same coaches, right? And then now I'm watching my kids go through the process. My older son plays baseball. He's going through the recruiting process as a pitcher, going to college next year. And then my twins are juniors going through the process as basketball studs, trying to figure out where their next move is going to be and what chapter they're going to open up into. It's pretty awesome, man. But the landscape is very different. You have a lot of kids that are good enough to go right to college to compete right away. There's some kids good enough to go right to the NBA and have a chance to compete. You got OTE, you got Ignite. There's so many different avenues for these high school kids to try to achieve their goals. And I think also one of the most important things that you brought up was NIL, right? Now kids can start getting paid for their name, image, and likeness, which is a game changer. And it's influencing a ton of kids and what direction they go in. So, me and mom are trying to do a good job of helping my kids navigate through this new landscape.
Hey, you bring up the Ignite right down the street here in Vegas. And for your twins, this is about your twins, I should say. You've played for a lot of legendary coaches. If you had to pick one that you would want your kids to be coached by, who would that be?
It's a good question. It's fair. And I think it's one of those questions I gotta kind of shy away from because I don't want to put too much influence on my kids, right? Like, what dad says they listen to, right? So if I'm sitting there saying, yo, go play for X, Y, and Z,
yeah.
I want them to pick their own path. This is the kind of coach. I'll give you the description of the kind of coach I want my kids to play for. A coach that is married to my kids, like believes in my kids, wants to help them achieve their goals, will ride with them through the ups and the downs. Because when you level up and you go to college, you're going to go through some ups and you're going to go through some downs. And you need a coach who's going to believe in you through the downtime, that sees your potential to fight through those moments. I was fortunate to have that when I went to college. It helped me a great deal to be able to kind of walk in the fire and figure out how to put the fire out. You know what I mean? Like a lot of coaches will be quick on the trigger and you make a mistake and they pull you out and you never figure out how to maneuver through that moment. I also want a place for them that they're going to nurture them and teach them and help them grow as young men outside the lines, right? Outside the court, and help them be good individual people as they get ready for the next step after that. So whatever that coach looks like, I want them to enjoy their college experience in every way. And that's what I'm looking forward to for my kids.
And I know a lot of people bring up Coach K because obviously collegiately and then later on with Team USA, but you're also coached by Jerry Sloan. And this is going to be a little random, but I hope you remember this night in 2003 where Ricky Davis wanted to get his own triple-double. Yeah, you were on the flip side of Jerry's anger on not being a part of his team. There's so much I could get into, but I guess I'll leave it at this. Did Ricky tell you guys that was the plan?
No, we had no idea. I had no idea what Rick was doing. Rick was probably one of the more talented guys I played with in the league, but he was very hungry for a triple-double that night.
What was your reaction then when you saw that? Like, you just put your head and were like, what?
I got a lot of love for Rick, but that was a moment that was like, come on, man. Like one of those, come on, man. You ever watch those? Come on, man. Like, for all the guys that got triple doubles the hard working way, like the Russell West, the guys that really do it, that was disrespectful to them. So I was like, come on, man.
Oh man, the memories I grew up in the Gund Arena, baby. I love it. And when you're talking about what type of coach that you want for your kids, and you brought up the ups and downs that everyone has in life, not just in basketball and careers, just life in general. You dealt with some resilience just getting into the league. draft night, and you get into it in the book. You get drafted late in the second round. Do you think, like looking back at it now, as you've had these moments to kind of, I guess, therapeutically write this book and go through everything in your life, do you think ultimately like that was fuel to the fire to your career and come out swinging, getting into training camp, making the roster, and having the career that you had?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I had the wrong perspective that night, and I think it's something I had to grow from. Like I thought I had
Was
a
it
great
embarrassment?
college. No, I had a great college career, 3 years at Duke. I was named Big Man of the Year. We won a championship. Like, I felt entitled almost, where I felt like I deserved to be in the first round. And I went, I was the fifth pick in the second round, early second round pick, but I thought I deserved to be a first round pick. And unfortunately, the GMs and they didn't agree. And so that left a huge chip on my shoulder, probably the size of Alaska. And I couldn't wait to go out there and prove that I belonged. I went to summer league. I destroyed summer league, killed it in summer league, got to vet camp, destroyed camp. I couldn't wait to just prove to all the other GMs, because obviously, the Cavs gave me my first shot. I have a huge sense of respect for John Lucas, who drafted me. I'm so proud and honored, and we have a great relationship to this day that they drafted me on draft night, because a lot of guys put their name in the draft. They don't hear their name get called. I was fortunate enough to hear my name get called. So I went from being like upset to grateful, and then motivated to prove. Like, when you go out for a job in the real world, nobody knows you didn't get the job. But when you go
Yeah.
out for the NBA, everybody knows you didn't get drafted, right? So I felt
Plus
grateful
Duke.
that
Yeah.
I felt grateful that I did get drafted and I got given this opportunity. So I wasn't gonna let it go to waste, man. So when I got to practice, I was the first one in the door, last one to leave. I was hungry, and I took that with me throughout my entire career.
Was Z? I mean, obviously the team didn't have too
Yeah,
many vets because of what was
we
going
were
on with the
young.
team at the time. Yeah,
Yeah,
super young, but with Z was your vet, right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah, Z was
incredible.
great, man. I mean, we were the young gunners, man. We had myself. Obviously, we drafted LeBron the next year, but we had D Miles, we had Ricky Davis, as we mentioned before. We had DeJuan Wagner, we had Sagana Diop, we had Chris Mim. Like we had D Miles. Like we were a
Jason
young
Capono.
squad, and then we had Cap, we had Capono. Then we had Big Z, who was like the Lithuanian Eiffel Tower. Had so much skill, great touch, great footwork. Like I spent my 2 summers in Cleveland training with Big Z, because he lived right there in Cleveland, right next to me. So we go to the gym working on fadeaways, working on hook shots, working on post moves, and he taught me a lot, man.
And I want to transition because I'm here in Vegas, so I feel obligated. Team USA, of course, this is
Yeah,
kind of home base every
yeah,
summer, whether there's an Olympic or not. And
yeah,
you went through both sides, right? And with
yeah.
the Redeem Team documentary on Netflix really went into it a lot, and they did a great job. And being on that team in '04 with the disappointment in the bronze, in '08 reclaiming everything and winning, and some of the changes, Coach K coming in, LeBron and some of these young guys kind of taking the mantle and that transformation. I want to know how that experience was as a competitor of like, I know that people have asked you a lot about with Kobe, and Kobe's in the book and
Of
stuff, but
course.
like seeing some of these greats and how they work in their work ethic, how that changed you. And then I also need a Vegas story too, because come on, we're here. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just keep it a buck with you. Like I think the transition for everybody on that team, it started with Kobe, bro. Like, I'll give you the real story. Same story I told on the Redeem Team documentary. Like, we go out first night in Vegas, we're having a good time. It's Vegas. We go have a
Dre's,
good time.
Dre's,
I think we ended up there, the late night after party Dre's, right? So we end up
always
there.
shout out to the
I,
after
I,
party.
yeah, go to the after party, have a good time. We get back at like 4 or 5 in the morning in the hotel. Cole's walking through the lobby, and we're like, "Cole, where you going?" And I got goals. And I was like, "Okay." So we go on the elevator, and I'm looking around like, "I got goals. You got goals?" So it's 5 in the morning. Cole go into the weight room, get his weight room in, go get breakfast, go to practice, knock out a 3 hour practice, come back, get up shots at night. And I'm over here like, dude. So we all started to do that. Like we were all stars. We were all NBA players. Like, right? Some of us were, some of the guys were champions already. And we saw Kobe's work ethic, and it made us want to work even harder. That includes LeBron. That includes D Wade. That includes Dwight Howard, Jason Kidd, like Darren
Mellow,
Williams,
yeah.
Chris Paul, like the whole Melo, the whole squad, Tayshaun Prince. Like we were loaded. a loaded rock Michael Red, like the whole squad. Next thing you know, we're lifting weights in the morning before breakfast. Then we have breakfast. Then we go to practice. Then we come back, get shots up at night. Like Kobe really inspired all of us to work that much harder. And then you see what happened in our careers. Like that year, Kobe won a gold medal, All-Star Game MVP, won an NBA championship, Finals MVP, and I think he might have led the league in scoring that year too. Like that, it just set the tone for who guys were going to be after that. Like you saw, like Kobe was the best player in the league at that time. Then here comes LeBron after he starts putting the same work in that Kobe showed him how to do. Now Bron takes the league over. Then you got Dwight Howard's the best center in basketball. Melo's one of the best scorers of all time. Like if you just go look at that team and what everybody accomplished after 2008, a lot of that translates to seeing how hard one of the best players ever worked.
No, that's fantastic, man. Carlos Boozer joining us here on the Sporting Tribune today. His book is out now. Get it wherever, hardcover, digital, audio book. It doesn't matter. Every shot counts. A Memoir of Resilience. And before we get you out of here, let me hit you with some quick hitters real quick. Okay. Since we're talking about all the greatness that you played with in Team USA and just around the league, especially when it just comes to power forwards. Dirk just got into the Hall of Fame. Ooh. Tim Duncan, you, Amari, KG, the list goes on and on and on and on. Who's the one guy you miss playing against? Not that you hated the most, that you miss playing against, because it just like two heavyweights going at it. Who would that be?
Yeah, like that's a great question. Like I think I played in the best power forward era there ever was in the NBA. You know, Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett,
not only
Chris
that,
Webber.
Not only that, and I forgot to mention Chris Webber. Not only did you do that, but because of that, it changed the game completely because you don't have the Suns, you don't have the Warriors and everything that happened now because that position was to be able to be stretched like that. Yeah. Chris Bosh and others. Like Chris Bosh's career, if he's 2 years later, like if you just shift his career and he takes 2 feet back to threes instead of mid-ranges, like it's crazy. And that's why I asked the question, like, to you, who was the one guy that was like, yo, I love playing against this guy because he brought the best out of me, out of all those greats?
It's Kevin Garnett without a question, man. KG was the kind of guy that you had to go to sleep at night, get your rest. You had to watch film a couple of days early. Like, he's a guy you had to really prepare, at least for me. I had to really prepare for KG because he was 7'1". He could hit, like the shot that you want him to take is a fadeaway jump shot contested, and that's his go-to move. That's how good Kevin Garnett was offensively. And then, oh, by the way, he's also the best defensive big man I ever had to go against. He could move his feet. So going one-on-one against KG was very difficult, right? Then in the pick and roll, not only could he guard the guard, he can get back and recover to you because he had the length and the size and the athleticism. He great help side defender. If you beat one of his teammates, he meets you at the rim and go block it. Like, Kevin Garnett was the guy you had to get, like, be on your A game for. You heard the old adage, like, iron sharpens iron. He brought the best out of me every night. And I would say also Ben Wallace, because he was such a good defensive big man. I had to have my A game against him too.
And what do you like? You just like there's no wasted steps going up against Ben, I'm assuming. No wasted movements.
He was strong as an ox, okay? So it was 2 heavyweights going at it, right? And then he was freakishly athletic, bro. You saw how good of a job he did against, like, Shaq. You think Shaq about to have 50 against this guy in the finals, right? Ben Wallace was a problem in Detroit.
Hall of Famer? Because that's always a discussion. Him and Dwight, people always, okay.
They both should be in the Hall of Fame. You look at Dwight, look at Dwight's accolades. How is he not top 75? Like, if you look at what Dwight did in his career,
he probably because he didn't win enough and people don't look into it.
Scoring title, defensive player of the year 4 times. Like, remember that one finals that we thought we were going to see Kobe and LeBron? Well, guess who messed it up? Dwight Howard.
Y'all almost did too.
Yeah, like think about that. Like, Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, so we never got that Kobe LeBron finals. Like, Dwight should be in the Hall of Fame, no question.
Also, Rashard Lewis, another power forward that changed the game because he could shoot.
Stretch. He could stretch.
This conversation is making me very happy. Another thing, the era that got me to where I'm at right now. Truthfully, you getting to be a part of free agency, obviously the first time in 03 heading into 04 or 04, 05, one of those years. And then 2010, which was the crazy bonanza. Just talk to me about those experiences and honestly, the difference of not only how things had elevated within the sport and people trying to make sure everyone's on the rosters and trying to get people signed. But then the media attention, because it wasn't just that LeBron did a decision on TV, but like on the internet as Twitter and social media is starting to bubble up and be an actual factor. Like, how was that craziness?
Yeah, the 04 was tough, man, because I honestly, I really wanted to stay in Cleveland. It was one of the places that I got drafted by. We had a young group of guys. We had a young star in LeBron who was really on the rise. Even after 1 year, we knew he was going to be something special. And I really wanted to stay. And the next thing I know, when they took away my option, and I had 3 or 4 teams coming after me with double the money. It was like one of the classes I majored in high school was math. I was really good at math. So I'm talking to the GMs and talking to the owner, like, if you guys can even come close, I'll stay. I really wanted to stay in Cleveland, but it wasn't.
I mean,
meant
it
to
was
be
a
that
20
way.
mil difference, allegedly, right?
No,
Like
it was a $35 million difference. It
listen,
was
man.
almost double the bread, right? So I'm over here like, if you guys come close, I'll stay. They didn't want to. They want to move a couple of players that would have made it easy, so I left. And then in 2010, it was crazy because every team was trying to get LeBron, right? So even when I went to Chicago, I took a little bit of less bread to keep that max space open. So if LeBron decided to come join us, we would have had D Rose, LeBron, myself, and Joakim Noah all on the same team, which would have been crazy. Obviously, we all know what happens. He goes to South Beach. D Wade stays. They get Chris Bosh to come from Toronto because Bosh and D Wade had the same agent in Henry Thomas. So that was like an easy pairing.
I'm curious, like, because you could kind of look at this past free agency, although it wasn't a free agent move, but the Dame trade. And if you kind of look at the timeline of everything that happened in free agency this year, Dame kind of made everybody stand still because everyone's like, well, we can't do anything until we know what's going to happen with him. Was there ever, because you signed with Chicago early on in free agency, like before all the craziness, was there ever hesitation of like, well, let me see how this plays out? Because if he signs with New York or he goes to, like, obviously the building blocks change with the league and the landscape. Was it why? Was there ever any hesitation to like, let's see how this plays out as opposed to signing how you signed with Chicago?
No. So let me tell you how it played out. So Joe Johnson was also a free agent. He signed right away with the Hawks for a crazy contract, 120 something. And then Amari went to the Knicks, right? So there was 2 max spots available in New York. Amari went to the Knicks. And then after that, obviously we knew D Wade was staying in Miami because that's where he wanted to be at. Bosh signs. And I go to Chicago and I'm like, man, this is the team. Like D Rose is a star. Joakim Noah is a lockdown defender. Luol Deng can do a little bit of everything. They're missing a good power forward. I plug in that spot. And then in case he comes, I'll take a little bit of less bread. So they got the max space. And then maybe like a 2 days after that, he goes down to Miami. So the puzzle pieces were already falling a little bit, so to speak. So the spots that he really could have went to at that time, he could have went to the Jersey Nets because they didn't sign anybody that summer. Nobody went to Jersey. They had cap space. He could have went to the Knicks to play with Amari. He could have came to us in Chicago, or he could have went to Miami, which is where he ended up going. Or he could have stayed in Cleveland. People forget about that too. That was also an option.
Yeah, I feel like we're over time, so I'm gonna wrap up with a couple more because this has been this has been fun. I was like, I don't know what you got to do. I'm good. We can do this all day. I'm here. Let me ask you a question, and this may be unprofessional. This is Cleveland fan, born and raised, talking to you. I don't try to count anyone's wallet, and you just said $35 million. I don't care what part of the world you give me that money. I'm gonna figure it out and be okay. So I understand the financial side of you going to Utah, as opposed to staying in Cleveland. But I'm curious, as you watch the rise of LeBron, and even before he got to Miami, he makes the finals, he overcomes the Pistons, right? And then he's going head to head with what Boston had to create to go up against him with the big 3. Do you ever think to yourself, as me as a fan, and no disrespect to anyone, when I see LeBron, and I always watch the intro of that game 3 finals, the first home game in Cleveland, the intro on ABC that they put on the TV, and they're announcing everyone, and I see Ira Newble and Sasha Pavlovich and blah, 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 blah. No disrespect to anybody. But if you were with him, do you ever think like, damn, we could have really made some noise and gone to the finals and did some things?
Oh, me and him have talked about it. If we stayed together, we probably would have won 1 or 2 championships before. And he may never have ended up going to Miami, right? Imagine if I stay, we build the championship team around, and we win a couple of rings in Cleveland. There is no Miami LeBron. Why would he go?
That's a fact. Well,
No,
because I'm
we
thinking
definitely
like,
talked about it.
because you got what? They signed Larry Hughes, they signed Antoine Jameson, like that was the big pieces. Instead of Antoine, it's you, and then Larry Hughes. We don't know. We don't even know what the construction of the team is. It's one of the
Drew Gooden
greatest.
was there for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, Drew Gooden was nice. Shout out to Kansas.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's crazy. Well, and so you guys have talked about this before.
We have talked about it. I mean, we think about it. We spent a couple All-Stars together. We did a couple Olympic trips together. Like, we've talked about it. But, that's the crazy thing about the business of basketball that nobody talks about. Like, just like for us, we all wanted to stay together, but then the business of basketball steps in, and we're not the ones cutting our checks, not the one trying to, keep everybody together. It's not our responsibility to pay his bill or pay my bill. But if I was willing to take half of what I was being offered, I could have stayed.
Hey, Carlos, 35 mil is 35 mil, man. Everything happens for a reason.
For sure.
Crazy what ifs. Before we get you out of here, let me talk to you about some things going on with the league real quick. First, we talk about free agency and how the landscape's changed. I never thought publicly that we'd see a situation that we'd see in Philly right now with James Harden and some of the things he said about Daryl Morey. And friendship and business and just the front office and the players, like it's super fascinating to me. James has shown up to training camp, no cell phone in his pocket. He's telling the truth to the media, but he's showing up and doing his job as well, which is a change. What do you just make of the drama surrounding the Sixers?
I mean, to me, it's pretty clear. Obviously, he thought he was going to be with the Philly for a long time. They didn't want to give him the contract that he thought he was deserved. He opted into his contract, being told that he was going to be moved. Then once he opted in, they decided to keep him and make him, sting for a supper another season, like play it out. So clearly there's more. He wouldn't have opted into his contract if he thought that they were going to keep him, because obviously at that point in the relationship had already been strained. He thought that he was going to get moved to a new team, whether that be Houston or the Clippers. He's from LA or whatever the case may be. So clearly, and he's not going to come out and go at Daryl Morey if he wasn't really lied to, right? That nobody wants to hear that, but why would he just say that, right? So, like, I think he's respected enough as an athlete, as a player, as one of the best players in the league for a long time, that if he says that, then he must have been lied to. But at the same time, James Harden is a baller when he's out there. Like, has he fell short in a couple of game sevens and played against some of the best teams of all time, like the War? Yeah, of course. Every player goes through ups and downs and good games and bad games. But when he plays, he brings it. We don't look at him as like a guy who doesn't bring his A game.
Straight up. It's just one of those fascinating front office and players and friendship. And should you be a friend with the GM? Should the GM be friends to the players? But you got to treat everyone right. Like it's a whole equation. And our final thing, we'll close out with this. Dame goes to Milwaukee as the season starts here shortly. Are the Milwaukee Bucks the favorite in your eyes?
I'd say in the East. I think obviously Boston is right there. I mean, Tatum and Brown have a real combination. They get Drew Holiday, part of that trade as well. What a great piece for them. But I'm really happy for Dame and excited for Dame. He hasn't played with a star on his level ever. And now he is in Giannis, right? Giannis may be even better than Dame, but I'm just saying they're at the peak of the game. Like, Dame's one of the top 2 or 3 point guards in the game. Giannis is one of the 2 or 3 best players on the planet. So them partnering up is going to be exciting to watch, obviously. But don't sleep on Boston. They're right there with the Milwaukee Bucks.
There it is. Well, listen, one more time. Every shot counts. A Memoir of Resilience, out now. Get it wherever you get your books. Holidays are coming up. Pick it up as a Christmas gift. Basketball season is here. Pick up a book. Get some knowledge. Carlos, hey, man, this has been a pleasure. This might be one of my favorite interviews I've ever done, and I appreciate the openness, man.
My pleasure, man.